The first time Lena saw the bear, she thought she was dreaming. It was late autumn, and the golden leaves crunched beneath the wheels of her wheelchair as she rolled along the dirt path near Silver Creek. The wind carried the crisp scent of pine, and the gentle hum of the flowing river filled the air. Since her accident a year ago, Lena had found peace in these woods. Though she couldn't run through them as she once had, she still loved to sit by the creek, watching the water rush past, imagining she was free like it, unstoppable, unbound. That day, she was lost in her sketchbook, carefully tracing the outline of an old oak tree, when a rustling in the bushes made her look up. At first, she saw nothing. Then, the massive form emerged, a grizzly bear, his fur thick and golden brown, his dark eyes locked onto hers. Lena's breath caught in her throat. Every book and wildlife documentary she'd seen warned of the dangers of grizzlies. She knew she should be afraid, should turn and leave as quickly as her wheelchair allowed. But she couldn't move. Not from fear, no, there was something else. The bear stood still, his powerful frame poised yet calm. His eyes weren't filled with aggression, but with something else. Curiosity. He sniffed the air and took a slow step forward. Lena's fingers tightened on her sketchbook. Her heart pounded, but for some reason she didn't feel the urge to scream or flee. Instead, she did something even she didn't understand. She lifted her sketchbook and turned it toward him. The page showed a drawing of the creek, with a small bear in the corner. The grizzly's ears twitched, and he let out a soft huff, as if acknowledging his presence in her artwork. Then, without warning, he turned and lumbered back into the trees, disappearing as silently as he had appeared. Lena exhaled, her hands trembling. Had that really just happened? Days passed, and Lena returned to the creek as she always did, but now with a lingering anticipation. Would the bear come back? Had she imagined the entire thing? Then, one chilly afternoon, as she sat sketching a hawk circling above, she heard the same rustling sound. Her breath caught. Slowly, she turned her head. There he was, the grizzly. This time, he didn't hesitate. He moved closer than before, still keeping a respectful distance, but near enough that she could see the subtle scars on his muzzle, the way his fur rippled with each movement. He wasn't just any bear. He had survived battles, faced hardships. He was a warrior of the wild. Lena swallowed her fear and continued drawing. Slowly, she flipped to a fresh page and, with careful strokes, began sketching him. His broad shoulders, his powerful limbs, the intelligent glint in his eyes. Every few minutes, she glanced up, as if seeking his approval. To her surprise, the bear simply watched, his deep breaths the only sound aside from the creek's murmur. When she finished, she turned the sketch toward him again. The bear tilted his head, sniffed the air, and then with a deep, satisfied grunt, walked away. Lena smiled. This had become their silent friendship. For weeks, the bear, whom Lena secretly named Bruno, appeared whenever she came to the creek. He would sit near the water, fishing or digging at the earth while she sketched. They never interacted beyond this, never crossed that invisible boundary between their two worlds, but there was an unspoken understanding between them. Lena told no one about Bruno, not her parents, not the ranger who sometimes passed by, not even her best friend Emma. She knew they wouldn't understand. They would say she was in danger, that she should never go back. But she knew better. Bruno wasn't a threat. He was a guardian. One evening, as Lena made her way back home, the sky painted in shades of pink and gold, her wheelchair suddenly lurched forward. The front wheel had caught on a thick root sticking out of the path. She pushed against the wheels, trying to free herself, but the chair refused to budge. Panic swelled in her chest. Her phone was in her backpack, just out of reach. She looked around. but the trail was empty. The sun was setting, and soon the forest would be cloaked in darkness. Then, heavy footsteps. A shadow loomed over her. Lena turned her head and gasped. Bruno. For the first time, he had followed her beyond the creek. His massive paws crunched against the leaves as he approached. His dark eyes studied her, then shifted to her wheelchair. He sniffed the air, huffed softly, and then did something incredible. He stepped forward and nudged the wheelchair with his nose. Lena froze. Was he trying to help? With another push, Bruno used his enormous strength to shift the chair backward, freeing the front wheel from the root. Lena gasped, gripping the armrests as the chair moved. Finally, with a last gentle nudge, Bruno stepped back and let out a satisfied huff. Lena felt tears sting her eyes. You helped me," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Bruno gazed at her for a long moment, then, as if satisfied, turned and lumbered back into the woods. Lena sat there, heart racing, watching until his form disappeared between the trees. She had always thought of Bruno as her silent companion, but now she knew the truth. He was her protector. After that night, Lena felt a deeper connection with the bear. She continued to visit the creek, and Bruno continued to appear. Sometimes he would nap in the sun while she drew. Other times, he would fish while she read aloud from her books, her voice carrying through the trees. But their bond didn't remain a secret forever. One afternoon, as Lena was sketching, she heard the distant bark of a dog. She looked up, frowning. A group of hikers was making their way down the trail, their golden retriever bounding ahead. And then she saw it. The moment Bruno stepped out of the trees. The hikers froze. The dog barked wildly, straining against its leash. One of the men shouted, "Bear! Everyone back!" Panic surged through Lena. She could see the fear in their eyes. They didn't know Bruno like she did. To them, he was just a wild, dangerous animal. One of the hikers reached for something in his bag. Bear spray. "No!" Lena shouted, rolling her chair forward. "He's not dangerous." The man hesitated, looking at her in disbelief. "Are you crazy? That's a grizzly bear." Bruno stood still, his dark eyes flicking between Lena and the strangers. He didn't growl, didn't charge. He simply waited. Lena took a deep breath. Slowly, she turned to Bruno and whispered, "It's okay." For the first time, she extended her hand toward him. Bruno hesitated, then stepped closer. Gently, he lowered his massive head and pressed his snout against her open palm. A deep rumble, almost like a purr, vibrated from his chest. The hikers stared in stunned silence. Then, just as calmly as he had arrived, Bruno turned and walked back into the woods, leaving behind nothing but the rustling of leaves and a silence thick with awe. The hikers left in shock, murmuring about what they had just witnessed. But Lena only smiled. Bruno wasn't just a bear. He was her friend, her guardian, the legend of Silver Creek.